26th day of 30 days reading challenge. I am reading The Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky, page number 302. Can it be that she has only been able to bear it till now? Because vice has begun to be less loathsome for her. No, no, that cannot be, he cried, as Sonia had just before. No, what has kept her from the canal till now is the idea of sin in they, the children, and if she has not gone out of her mind. But who says she has not gone out of her mind? Is she in her senses? Can one talk? Can one reason as she does? How can she sit on the edge of the abyss of loathsomeness into which she is slipping and refuse to listen? When she told of danger, does she expect a miracle? No doubt she does. Doesn't that all means madness? He stayed abstinently at that thought. He liked that explanation, indeed, better than any other. He began looking more intently at her. So you pray to God a great deal, Sonia? He asked her. Sonia did not speak. He stood beside her, waiting for an answer. What should I be without God? She whispered rapidly, forcefully, glancing at him with suddenly flashing eyes and squeezing his hand. Ah, so that is it, he thought. And what does God do for you? He asked, probing her further. Sonia was silent a long while, as though she could not answer. Her weak chest kept heaving with emotions. Be silent, don't ask. You don't deserve, she cried suddenly, looking sternly and wrathfully at him. That is it, that is it, he repeated to himself. He does everything, she whispered quickly, looking down again. That's the way out, that's the explanation, he decided, scrutinizing her with eager curiosity, with a new, strange, almost morbid feeling. He gazed at the pale, thin, irregular, angular little face, those soft blue eyes, which could flash with such fire, such stern energy, that little body still shaking with indignation and anger. And it all seemed to him more and more strange, almost impossible. She is a religious maniac, he repeated to himself. There was a book lying on the chest of the drawers. He had noticed it every time he paced up and down the room. Now he took it up and looked at it. It was the New Testament in the Russian translation. It was bound in leather, old and worn. Where did you get that? He called to her across the room. She was still standing in the same place, 3 steps from the table. It was brought me, she answered, as it were unwilling, not looking at him. Who brought it? Lizaveta. I asked her for it. Lizaveta, strange, he thought. Everything about Sonia seemed to him stranger and more wonderful every moment. He cried the book to the candle. He carried the book to the candle and began to turn over the pages. Where is the story of Lazarus? He asked suddenly. Sonia looked absently at the ground and could not answer. She was standing sideways to the table. Where is the rising of Lazarus? Find it for me, Sonia. She stole a glance at him. You are not looking in the right place. It is in the fourth gospel, she whispered sternly, without looking at him. Find it and read it to me, he said. He sat down with his elbow on the table, leaned his head on his hand, and looked away sullenly, prepared to listen. In 3 weeks' time, they will welcome me in the madhouse. I shall be there if I am not in a worse place, he muttered to himself. Sonia heard Raskolnikov's request distrustfully and moved hesitatingly to the table. She took the book, however. Haven't you read it? She asked, looking up at him across the table. Her voice became sterner and sterner. Long ago, when I was at school. Read. And haven't you heard it in church? I haven't been. Do you often go? No, whispered Sonia. Raskolnikov smiled. I understand. And you won't go to your father's funeral tomorrow. Yes, I shall. I was at church last week too. I had a requiem service. For whom? For Lizaveta. She was killed with an axe. His nerves were more and more strained. His head began to go around. Were you friends with Lizaveta? Yes, she was good. She used to come. Not often. She couldn't. We used to read together and talk. She will see God. The last phrase sounded strange in his ears, and here was something new again, the mysterious meeting with Elizabeth, and both of them religious maniacs. I shall be a religious maniac myself soon. It's infectious. Read. He cried irritably and insistently. Sonia still hesitated. Her heart was throbbing. She hardly dared to read to him. He looked almost with an exasperation at the unhappy lunatic. What for? You don't believe, she whispered softly and as it were breathlessly. Read, I want you to, he persisted. You used to read to Elizaveta. Sonia opened the book and found the place. Her hand was shaking, her voice failed her. Twice she tried to again and could not bring out the first sliver. Now a certain man was sick named Lazarus of Bethany. She forced herself to last at last to read, but at the third word her voice broke like an overstrained string. There was a catch in her breath. Raskolnikov saw in part why Sonia could not bring herself to read to him, and the more he saw this, the more roughly and irritably he insisted on her doing so. He understood only too well how painful it was for her to betray and unveil all that was her own. He understood that the feelings rely were her secret treasure, which she had kept perhaps for years, perhaps from childhood, while she lived with an unhappy father and a distracted stepmother, crazed by grief in the midst of starving children and unseemly abuse and reproaches. But at the same time, he knew now and knew for certain that although it filled her with dread and suffering, yet she had a tormenting desire to read and read to him that he might hear it, and to read nowhere, whatever might come of it. He read this in her eyes. He could see it in her intense emotions. She mastered herself, controlled a spasm in her throat and went on reading the 11th chapter of St. John. She went on to the 19th verse. And many of the Jews came to Martha and Mary to comfort them concerning their brother. Then Martha, as soon as she heard that Jesus was coming, went and met him. But Mary sat still in the house. Then said Martha unto Jesus, Lord, if thou hadst been there, my brother had not died. But I know that even now, whatsoever Thou wilt ask of God, God will give it thee. Then he stopped again with a shamefaced feeling that her voice would quiver and break again. Jesus said to her, thy brother shall rise again. Martha said unto him, I know that he shall rise again in the resurrections and at the last day. Jesus said unto her, I am the resurrection and the life. He had believed in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. And whosoever lived and believed in me shall never die. Believest do you? She said unto him, and drawing a painful breath, Sonia read distinctly and forcefully as though she were making a public confession of faith. Yea, Lord, I believe that thou art the Christ, the Son of God, which should come into the world. She stopped and looked up quickly at him, but controlling herself, went on reading. Raskolnikov sat without moving, his elbows on the table and his eyes turned away. She read to the 32nd verse. Then, when Mary was come where Jesus was and saw him, she fell down at his feet, saying to him, Lord, if thou hadst been here, my brother had not died. When Jesus therefore saw her weeping, and the Jews also weeping, which came with her, he groaned in the spirit and was troubled, and said, where have ye laid him? They said to him, Lord, come and see. Jesus wept. Then said the Jews, behold how he loved him. And some of them said, Could, could not this man which opened the eyes of the blind and have caused that even his men should not have died? Raskolnikov turned and looked at her with emotions. Yes, he had known it. She was trembling in a real physical fever. He had expected it. She was getting near the story of the greatest miracle, and a feeling of immense triumph came over her. Her voice rang out like a bell. Triumph and joy gave it power. The lines danced before her eyes, but she knew that what she was reading by heart. At the last verse, could not this man which opened the eyes of the blind, dropping her voice, she passionately reproduced the doubt, the reproach and censure of the blind, disbelieving Jews, who in another moment would fall at his feet as though struck by thunder, sobbing and believing. And he too is blinded and unbelieving, he too will. घुमाते ले चलते हुए कमरे में बंद करके देखने का मतलब ऐसा थोड़ी कि पूरी शादी देखना है देखने का मतलब शादी हो जाए सामने ये बहू आ जाए अच्छे बात ये कमरे में बंद कर दिया पूरा आना जाना लगा रहा पूरा he too will hear, he too will believe. Yes, yes, at once now was what she was dreaming, and she was quivering with happy anticipations. Jesus, therefore, again growing in himself, coming to the grave. It was a cave, and a stone lay upon it. Jesus said, take ye away the stone. Martha, the sister of him that was dead, said unto him, Lord, by this time he stinketh, for he had been dead 4 days. She laid emphasis on the word for. Jesus said unto her, said I not unto thee that if thou wouldest believe, thou shouldest see the glory of God. Then they look away the stone from the place where the dead was laid. And Jesus lifted up his eyes and said, Father, I thank thee that you last heard me. And I knew that thou hearst me always. But because of the people which stand by, I said it, that they believe that thou hast sent me. And when he thus had spoken, he cried with a loud voice, Lazarus, come forth. And he that was dead, come forth. She read loudly, cold and trembling with ecstasy, as though she was seeing it before her eyes. Bound hand and foot with grave clothes, and his face was bound about with a napkin. Jesus said unto them, Loose him and let him go. Then many of the Jews which came to Mary and had seen the works which Jesus did believe in all. She could read no more, closed the book, and got up from her chair quickly. That is all about the raising of Lazarus, she whispered severely and abruptly, and turning away, she stood motionless, not daring to raise her eyes to him. She still trembled feverishly. The candle end was flickering out in the bedroom candlestick, dimly lightening up in the poverty striking room the murderer and the harlot, who had so strangely been reading together the eternal book. 5 minutes or more passed. I came to speak of something, Raskolnikov said aloud, frowning. He got up and went to Sonia. She lifted her eyes to him in silence. His face was particularly stern, and there was a sort of savage determination in it. I have abandoned my family today, he said. My mother and sister. I am not going to see them. I have broken with them completely. What for? Asked Sonia amazed. Her recent meeting with his mother and sister had left a great impression which she could not analyze. She heard his news almost with horror. I have only you now, he added. Let us go together. I have come to you. We are both accursed. Let us go our way together. His eyes glittered, as though he as though he were mad. Sonia thought in her turn. Go where? She asked in alarm, and she involuntarily stepped back. How do I know? I only know it. It is the same road. I know that, and nothing more. It is the same goal. She looked at him and understood nothing. She she knew only that she was terribly, infinitely unhappy. No one of them will understand if you tell them, but I have understood. I need you. Tell this why I have come to you. That is why. I don't understand, whispered Sonia. You will understand later. Haven't you done the same? You too have transgressed, have had the strength to transgress. You have laid hands on yourself. You have destroyed a life, your own. It's all the same. You might have lived in spirit and understanding, but you will end in the whole Haymarket. But you won't be able to stand it, and if you remain alone, you will go out of your mind like me. You are like a mad creature already, so we must go together on the same road. Let us go. What for? What's all this for? Said Sonia, strangely and violently agitated by his words. What for? Because you can't remain like this. That's why. You must look things straight in the face at last, and not weep like a child and cry that God won't allow it. What will happen if you should really be taken to the hospital tomorrow? She is mad and in consumption. She will soon die, and the children. Do you mean to tell me Polinka won't come to grief? Haven't you seen children here at the street corners sent out by their mothers to beg? I have found out where those mothers live and in what surrounding. Children can't remain children there. At 7, the child is vicious and a thief. Yet, children, you know, are the image of Christ. There's the kingdom of heaven. He bade us honor and love them. They are humanity of future. What's to be done? What's to be done? Repeated Sonia, weeping hysterically and wringing her hands. What's to be done? Break what must be broken. Once for all, that's all. And take the suffering on oneself. What? You don't understand. You will understand later. Freedom and power, and above all power, over all trembling creation and all the ant heap. That's the goal. Remember that. That is my farewell message. Perhaps it is the last time I shall speak to you. If I don't come tomorrow, you will hear of it all. And then remember these words. And some day later on, in years to come, you will understand perhaps what they meant. If I came tomorrow, I will tell you who killed Lizaveta. Goodbye. Sonia started terror. Why, do you know who killed her? She asked, chilled with horror, looking wildly at him. I know and will tell. You and only you. I have chosen you out. I am not coming to you to ask forgiveness, but simply to tell you. I chose you out long ago to hear this, when your father talked of you, and when Elizabeth was alive. I thought of it. Goodbye. We'll shake hands tomorrow. He went out. Sonia gazed at him as at a madman, but she herself was like one insane and felt it. Her head was going around.